We've all been led away from our power. We've all become dependent upon a structured system, a matrix, a fictitious reality. And that's what this reality, with all of its trappings and all of its ridiculous rules and restraints, is. That's what this reality is. Because we have the ability to have far better technology than we've got now. We have the ability to have far better societies than we have now. We have the ability to help and empower every single person on this planet, of every nationality, every religion. We have the means to do this. We have the technology to do this. And if we wanted, we could easily create the opportunity to do this. It's just being aware that we can. Everything that is put in place by these governments is designed to control. This entire system that's been put in place, all of the rivalry between nations, everything is contrived, my friends. It's all put in place in order to create a totalitarian police state. At the end of the day, that's the whole game. It always has been the game, right from the start. It's always been leading towards this complete lockdown police state prison. That is what is being created. So you have to wonder, who is really behind this? What is the point of creating a world like this? Are we still in control here, or has this situation simply been created by a psychopathic section of society that sees everything and everybody as a false threat? It's almost like this mathematically formulated construct that we are in, this virtual reality that we live in, has become infected with a virus. That's what it almost feels like sometimes, that there is some type of virus that has taken control of this consciousness, and it feeds on fear, and it works to create as much fear as possible. And then it works to control the minds of the population through a controlled media by feeding fear into all the people all the time. Everything is about fear. All of our societies are structured on fear, and because of their dependence on money, and because people are kept in a state of struggle, then these societies can only ever produce crime and violence and rivalry and division. That's the way these societies are structured. They are structured to create control under the guise of freedom. Put people in situations where they remain divided, and then give them lots of toys to play with, and they won't notice what's being done to them. You can give people iPods and video games and access to the internet and a choice of picking whichever overpriced vehicle they'd like to buy, whichever overpriced clothing or contaminated food they'd like to purchase, and these people will think they're free. But actually go and try and do something to do with the earth. Go and start living off the land and stop paying your taxes and live at one with nature. Put up a satellite dish and find someone who knows about alternate energy. Look into the work of Victor Schauberger or Nikola Tesla. And go and set yourself up a free energy device and get off the grid and live at one with the planet and have all the technology you want. And see how far you get with that type of idea, and then see what happens to you. And then we can again review the concept of freedom. Because what we are provided with in this society is certainly not freedom. It's the illusion of freedom. It's the illusion of choice. But within these societies that we have constructed for ourselves, we are all kept very much under control. We just don't realize it until we actually look at the bigger picture. And that's the trick. It's even seeing that this bigger picture does exist. It's just being able to look beneath the trappings of this fictitious society that we live in, and look down and discover the real workings. Look and see how the world is actually run. And it has nothing to do with what the television's telling you. The hardest part about it is getting people to understand that the threat that we're facing is coming from ourselves. We are the ones who are populating the military. We are the ones who are populating the police forces. We are the ones who are carrying out the will of the people at the top. And when I say we, I'm not necessarily saying to those of you listening to this radio show, but what I'm trying to say here is that the people who are being used as the tools to carry out the will of the elite, the police officers and the military personnel and the government officials, These are people, just like you and me. On a deeper level, we're all the same. What exists on this planet as far as the human race goes is people. That's it. There is absolutely no division between any of these people. We are all just as powerful as each other. We are all just as important as each other. We are all very much the same as each other, because we are all literally one. And it is we the people who are creating all of the problems that we face on Earth. And even if we are not part of what one would term to be the ruling elite that sit at the top and pull all the strings, we are, at very least, the strings that are being pulled. And it is through our allowance to be one of these strings that all the problems arise. And we don't have to. We don't have to do any of this, because we are, each and every one of us, wonderful, powerful human beings, and we are capable of doing anything we want, and being anything we want, and creating whatever reality we wish to create. All we have to do is understand this power, folks. And to do this, all we have to do is see the connection we have to each other. See the power of our emotions, see the power of our hearts, connect with each other, and the whole system changes. The whole system of control breaks down. As soon as we do that, as soon as we embrace our connection to each other, the whole system of control breaks down. The powers that be know that a lot of people are waking up to this, and that's why they are positioning themselves now to try to quell this mass awakening when it happens. And that's why it's so important for members of the military and members of the police force to become aware of this understanding as well, and to understand how controlled they are. None of us have to do this. None of the military, none of the wars have to be fought, none of the lockdown of society has to occur, none of the dependence upon this monetary system has to continue. We have the ability to change it, simply by understanding and embracing the connection we all have to each other. Well, that's something to think about anyway, folks. I think it's time for a break now. So we'll go for a break, and I'll speak to you again in a few minutes. Welcome back, folks. Now, the message I'd really like people to take away from the show today is an understanding of the power that they have, a feeling of empowerment, and the knowledge that the only reason that those people who sit at the top and pull all the strings are more powerful than the general population is because the general population has been tricked into relinquishing their power and in giving their power to these few who sit at the top. We seem to have some inbuilt programming that creates a need to be controlled somewhere in our genes. And again, it's almost like a computer virus or something. It's a bizarre concept, but we seem to have this gene, this, whether it's been done through our education system or however it's got there, we seem to have this mechanism within our psyche that is comfortable relinquishing control, that is fearful of having control or taking control of our own lives. We like to have things laid out for us. We like to have things done for us. We like to have all of the trappings of our society and to pay no regard to how the world is being run. We live in divided little boxes. We spend our lives focusing on the collection of things for ourselves, the improvement of life for our family, and the improvement of life, we see this as having more stuff. If I can have more money, have a bigger house and buy more stuff, my family's life is improved. But there's no real connection between that family and the family next door, and very often there's no real connection between the people within the family. Each person feels quite separate. Brother and sister feel separate from each other. Very often the mother and father feel separate from each other. The parents feel separated from the children. There's no unity within the family. There's no unity within the neighborhood. There's no unity within the city. and there's no unity within the nation. And then you transfer this onto an international scale, as I've spoken to you about before, and you have all of these countries divided from each other, and all of the people within the countries divided from each other, all of the families within the people within the countries divided from each other, all the people within the families divided from each other. So you can see that this entire structure of our society is designed in order to create division, in order to create fear. Everybody's in fear. Everybody's in fear of what the next moment may bring, in fear of whether they'll get the bills paid, in fear of everything. They really work very hard to make sure that people are kept in fear. But a lot of people are waking up to it, and we are making a difference.